Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Stoneridge's Connect Community Conference. Today, I'm joined by my two colleagues, Tracy Ottenstroer and Tyler Allard, and we're going to talk today a little bit about Copilot, and specifically Copilot 101. So, a few agenda items today. We're really going to talk about and introduce what Microsoft Copilot is. We're then going to move into more of a breakdown of the Copilot framework. And then we're going to do a quick live demo with Copilot. So it's going to be interacting with Copilot and how you as a user can interact with Copilot. We're then going to move into a security and governance consideration conversation. And then at the end, we're going to talk about how you as an organization can enable Copilot. So first off, we will start with those introductions and take it away, Tyler.
Thanks, Tyler. Hi, everyone. My name is Tyler Allard, and I'm a solutions architect on the cloud services team. A lot of my focus is on end user adoption and understanding what that impact is going to be to your team when you're adopting Copilot. Been with Stoneridge for about 2 years now, focusing on cloud and most recently Copilot.
And thanks, Tyler. I'm Tracy Ottenstroer. I'm the Copilot program manager and also a senior client success manager here at Stoneridge. Been here about 3 years. I'm really focused on Copilot and helping your organization enable it and maximize your user adoption. So pretty pumped to be part of these events today.
Awesome. And I am Tyler St. Pierre. I am the Strategic Alliance Manager for Stoneridge Software. I've been in the Microsoft ecosystem since 2016, and I really do love driving strategic relationships with all of our partners and with Microsoft. So let's really get into it. Let's get ourselves introduced into what Copilot really is and sometimes what Copilot isn't. So first, let's talk about what Copilot is. So Copilot really is the enhancer of work. So Copilot is here to boost productivity. It's here to be your side-by-side person when working with the Microsoft 365 application. So it really wants to be that enhancer of work and that application that's going to help you increase productivity and make sure that you're hitting some goals. So another thing that it's an integrated assistant. So it's going to sit on top of and beside all of your Microsoft 365 applications. It is woven into the fabric of Microsoft, so it's going to be very well architectured into connecting with all of your applications. It's also a task automator. So what Copilot is really good at is taking those repetitive tasks and automating them for you so you can really focus on your strategic work and your creative work. It's also a content generator, and that's where I use it a lot, is you really want to start with a base foundation and then bring your own points into the generated content. So getting a starting point is always sometimes the hardest when either formatting an email or creating a PowerPoint, but having a good starting point with Copilot is something that I find the most helpful. So with all those 4 points, let's talk about what Copilot really isn't most of the time. So there's a lot of nervousness out there that Copilot is going to replace humans, but Copilot is not. It's not a replacement for human judgment. So when using Copilot, you really have to make sure that what the output that Copilot has, you are the person making the judgment on saying, hey, this is correct or this isn't correct. And that is not going to be replaced. AI can be wrong. AI can be right. But we need a human in that seat saying, yes, this is right. What it also isn't, it's not really a general purpose chat bar. So kind of unlike ChatGPT, where you put in a prompt and it gives you back a funny answer or a date to something, Copilot can do that, but it's much more than that. It sits on top of the applications and reads the data that you've allowed it to read to specifically interact with Microsoft 365 products. So, and then the final point to this, and it really goes back to that human judgment point, it is not a single source of truth. Microsoft Copilot has the ability to read information from your organization and read information from the web. But again, have your human judgment and make sure that you are reading all of the outputs that it has and making sure that it's truthful and correct. So after talking about what Microsoft Copilot is and Copilot is not. Let's talk about and break down some of the framework that really goes into Microsoft Copilot. Tyler, turn it over to you.
Thanks, Tyler. So as we dive into how Copilot works behind the scene, I really needed to keep forefront in your mind what Tyler just mentioned about what it is and isn't, because that's going to help you contextualize how this technology works. Starting at a high level, Copilot is really built on three primary pillars when you're using it in your organization. That's the large language model that you've probably heard reference online or in the news multiple times with OpenAI. There's essentially a separate instance of that lives within the Microsoft service boundary that Copilot is leveraging. And it's leveraging that to contextualize your data via the Microsoft Graph API. And then both of those tools are stacked on top of all of the 365 apps that you are familiar with and your team is already using already in order to give you the best end user experience possible. Now bear with me for a moment because we're going to get a little technical, and this next slide is a little bit of a behemoth, but what we have here is a graphical representation of how your information and your prompts is handled by a Copilot when you type something into the tool. As you can see here at the beginning, it's working with the M365 apps, and your prompts in any of those applications, like I said, it plays with all of them very well, goes into the Copilot engine, and then it contextualizes that information and that prompt via the semantic index, which we'll talk more about later, through that Graph API. And that's how it's taking what your users are typing into the prompt and parsing it through all of the knowledge that it's built for itself with the data that you host in the M365 cloud. An important thing I want to call out here is that if your data is not in the cloud or you don't build a connection to the cloud for Microsoft Copilot, your results are going to be diminished a little bit. If you have data at rest in an on-prem server and you're expecting Copilot to magically find that data, that is not going to lead to success. The other thing I want to point out on this graph here is that we have the large language model resting within the M365 trust boundary. As I said before, it's essentially a separate instance of this model within the Microsoft service boundary to ensure that your data never leaves that boundary. A little bit more about the Graph API. The semantic fabric is what ties all of these different applications together, and it's essentially where the hive mind that is Copilot lives and functions within your organization. This is how it's creating all of those awesome data points that are referencing data in emails or OneDrive or SharePoint at rest and tying it all together to provide valuable responses to the prompts that your users are typing in. If you check in with us a little bit later in the day, you're going to see some use cases where we demonstrate how these applications are playing together, and Copilot's really the glue that's tying them all together in the background. But to understand a little bit more about how you can use Copilot with some of these specific applications, I'll pass it over to Tracy.
Thanks, Tyler. So yeah, we're going to get into a demo, and I love letting Copilot speak for itself with its capabilities. And to make Copilot truly a personal assistant, I really believe that we need to use it for simple things throughout our day. So in this demo, in about 6 minutes time, we are going to write an email, schedule 2 emails, recap and react to another meeting, do some industry research, prepare for yet another meeting, enhance a report, and create a presentation. Are y'all ready? Okay, let's dig in. So we're here in Outlook and have a new email. I need to send an email to Tyler and Tyler to prep for Stoneridge Connect. Let's ask Copilot to help. A friendly reminder for Tyler and Tyler to prep for our Copilot 101 event. Let's see how Copilot can draft the email. I hope this message finds you well and in good spirits. Oh no, let's make it more direct. All right, now make some changes. Take some wording out, delete a couple of lines, make it more sound like me. That's looking better. Let's go ahead and send. Now, here's an email from Bree in our marketing department. I think we need a meeting to talk about this email. So using that schedule with Copilot button, Copilot can quickly create an event, including all people in the email, finding an available time, attaching the original email, and creating an agenda. Let's send this. We're moving on. Since we are scheduling meetings though, let's have Copilot help us schedule another meeting. So in our calendar with the Copilot column open, we use that preset prompt to schedule a meeting with Scott for Pierre, say Tyler Allard, and Tyler St. Pierre about those Copilot offers. You'll see here that Copilot creates an open the event button where when we click on that, we see suggested times. Let's also have Copilot draft the agenda right here in the body of the event. So create an agenda for our team status update meeting on the Copilot offers. And once again, we're going to keep that and send that off. All right, moving into Teams. Here we have a recap of my client success meeting. Here's a list of speaker topics and an AI summary complete with meeting notes and follow-up tasks. It even shows when I was mentioned during the meeting. I can open Copilot now to show how I've interacted with this meeting. I asked Copilot to draft an email to our director, Leanne. And to add a little more detail, I asked for suggested follow-up questions, and based on the transcript, Copilot recommended questions to ask Leanne and Jade. I can copy those into my email as well. And if I'm not sure what to ask Copilot, clicking more prompts always proves to have great suggestions. I think I'm caught up on my L10 meeting now. So over here in Copilot chat, I have more suggested prompts, but I need to understand a client's industry better. So I write a prompt to do just that. Copilot is amazing at pulling from multiple websites to synthesize answers that are so often unbelievably helpful. And then I can converse with Copilot to ask more questions, like how is technology helping agriculture? Wow, now I can feel more educated as I go into my client meeting. And of course, all these bullets have links to their references. There's more. In the Work tab, the top of the screen, Copilot chat can grab information across all of my apps like Calendar and email and Teams. You can see this work when I use the Arrive Prepared prompt to prepare for a meeting. I get a list of ideas, references to where ideas were pulled, related files, and even some preparation tips. Two more things. In Word, I have prepared an executive sales report. It looks pretty good, but I'd like to change these bullets, breaking down the regional sales into a chart format. That's easy for Copilot. Generate table. And look at that. It's got a really nice, accurate table. I can make my modification, and that really elevates the look. This sales report is done. But I can't really present a Word document without also creating a PowerPoint deck. Copilot is masterful at creating content. Here I have a Stoneridge PowerPoint template. Let's ask Copilot to create a presentation about the Q4 2024 sales report document. Copilot Orchestrator pulls into the content from Word first, and then it generates an outline. And then from there, I can add a topic to enhance the presentation. So let's add regional environmental concerns. Regional environmental concerns. Just like that, Copilot thinks and adds the topic. Let's go ahead and generate those slides. Copilot now will take some time to comb through the entire sales report, that outline it created, and then create the original slides, including images to complete the deck. Remember, this is my AI assistant taking a Word document, my company's branded template, and giving me a first and likely a really good first draft for my quarterly sales meeting. What am I going to do with all my extra time in my day? All right, we can see Copilot pulling our slides together and creating our presentation. Just like that, we can make some changes, move slides around, modify everything to my liking, and then I can view in that normal view and see that Copilot even created speaker notes. And that's just the start. Throughout the day on this stage, we will continue to demo Copilot in action. I'll send it back to Tyler now to go a bit deeper into some security and governance best practices.
Wow, Tracy, thank you. And that was amazing to be able to perform all that work in just a few short minutes. You were able to pull that off. Now, the value of Copilot is apparent, but the big question that most of our clients seem to ask us when talking to us about Copilot is security. And I'm here to educate you a little bit on how seriously Microsoft is taking that security concern, specifically with Copilot. Microsoft and Stoneridge are taking a comprehensive approach to Copilot security in all of our deliveries. And what I mean by that is we leverage all of the tools across the Microsoft product suite that are integrated into not just Copilot security, but cloud security as well. That includes security tools like Entra ID, compliance tools like governance and data loss prevention, privacy tools, things like conditional access, mobile device management, mobile application management, and then a responsible AI approach, not just on how we deliver the technology, but how Microsoft themselves are developing the technology. Diving a little bit deeper into some of these bespoke tools, some examples for how Microsoft handles these individual tasks. For overprivileged and risky users, we have that functionality within Microsoft Entra ID to have granular security permissions that scale based on user risk. We also have reporting tools that are available to us to see what users are using, which data, which applications, and especially when you are licensed for Copilot, you have an extra tier of licensing available depending on where the shares are hosted to view how users are accessing that data via prompts. And then while users are using Copilot, dependent on the device that they're using, we can leverage a tool called Microsoft Intune to ensure that your data at rest, when it's fed into Copilot via a litany of applications, via Teams, Word, etc., is secure. And with Intune, we're also able to leverage device management and application management to ensure that your sensitive corporate data stays within those applications that Copilot is present in. For example, if someone is using Copilot Chat or Copilot within Teams and they enter a prompt and they get response with organizational data via that work tab, Microsoft allows us to be able to set it so that users can copy and paste that response into a Teams chat, but they can't copy and paste it into a local Word document or a local notepad just on that device. Once your data is in the cloud and Copilot can use it, they're working really hard to make sure that it is safe and secure. Speaking about overexposure of that data, there's also Microsoft Purview, which is a large umbrella term for a litany of products. But again, the information protection part of that is how to measure where your data is at rest, where it is in transit, and also leveraging a little bit of that special Copilot secret sauce. We can use that semantics index to assess the data that is inside those documents. It can be contextually aware. It'll look for things like a social security number or a SIN. It'll look for personally identifiable information in that data, and we can apply more intense security parameters around those specific documents. And then if all of that sounds like a lot, we can use a tool like Microsoft Defender for cloud apps to really just control whether or not people can use Copilot or not. We can containerize Copilot to be specifically just within Teams. We can set it to just be available within PowerPoint, for example, using that example that Tracy provided to us earlier. And that allows us to maybe not permanently, but as we're working through deploying it in your organization, have control over that environment and have a phased approach to rolling it out to be able to measure and control that adoption. At a high level, I just want to demonstrate how Microsoft is really thinking about security end-to-end when you're using Copilot in your organization, from inception of the file and when a user is assigned that Copilot license, all the way to the very end with Defender for cloud apps and being able to manage what apps they can use that data in. Copilot and the security around Copilot via that graph framework and that semantic fabric is architected and designed to be in every single layer of your M365 tenant. Now, as we're thinking about adoption with Copilot, I really wanted to highlight how Microsoft's responsible AI principles are a framework that they've developed and they're adopting through their design of the Copilot products. And it's something that we might be able to steal when we're thinking about deploying Copilot in our own organizations. Of course, when we're introducing artificial intelligence, we probably want to start at governance and work our way up from there. Understand the data that we're using, the data that's going to be available for Copilot, and then we set some ground rules about how we want AI and our staff to be able to interact with that data. Once we have the rules in place, we can start training our team and we can build practices about how to use these tools. And then the tools and processes come naturally after that. Now that hopefully we've tackled some of your more burning security questions, we can talk to you about what it's like to enable Copilot in your organization. And of course, the first step of that is licensing, and I'll pass that over to Tyler St. Pierre to talk us through that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tyler. So what's everybody's first question when it comes to a new product? What is the price? So in Microsoft, there are technically two different versions of Microsoft Copilot. So there's the free version, which if you stick with us today, we're going to do a quick little demo on how to use the Microsoft Copilot free version. And then there's the Microsoft 365 Copilot for the applications and for agents. So when we talk about Microsoft 365 Copilot, what we want to talk about is how much does this cost and what do you get with the cost? If you look at what Microsoft Copilot costs, it costs $1 a day. I would be hard pressed to find any other application or any other product that costs more than or less than $1 a day where you will get more productivity out of. So we have a really good licensing team. If you are interested in purchasing Microsoft 365 Copilot, they will walk you through all of the pricing structures. Sometimes there's consumption, sometimes it's a straight cost, but they're fantastic on our team about breaking that down for you. So remember, there is a cost for the application side. And if you stick with us a little bit more today, we're going to show you how to use the free side of it. So on to the next part of really enabling Copilot in your organization.
Absolutely, Tyler. We've talked about what Copilot is and isn't. We've talked about the security framework on the back end and how Copilot is functioning, what it has access to. But really, to get the value out of Copilot, it's all about user adoption. How are your users actually going to use Copilot? We cannot stress enough the importance of end user training. Even something like demoing the activities that Tracy just walked us through to be able to advertise the actual value to your team and how they can use Copilot effectively. In addition to that, if they have questions while adopting this tool, you want to ensure that you have the right support resources in place for that team. We don't want any unnecessary friction. We don't want people to feel challenged by these new tools. We don't want them to run into barriers and not feel like they can ask technical experts for help. And that's what we're here for. And as we go through those interactions, we're really helping your team build user confidence. And what we've seen in practice with our clients is that if we build up that user confidence, if we support them, we give them the training, they're going to turn into champions within your organization and start demonstrating the value of Copilot themselves. Really hit that snowball effect, get it running, and then everyone's going to be able to be a little bit happier and save more time leveraging AI.
Yeah, Tyler, I love that. And on the user side, that's certainly important to have that support. And also being leaders and administrators of Copilot can feel like a big ask. So Microsoft has built some great dashboards inside of the M365 Admin Center, and they can show you really great metrics on adoption, your return on investment measurements, and overall impact. Also, Viva Insights can even go deeper with a fully loaded dashboard. So your feature availability is based on your M365 licensing. So stay tuned for more information on that, but it's a great resource for you to have. So to wrap things up, if you go to that last slide, Tyler, with Copilot 101, we're seeing Copilot and AI as probably the biggest transformative opportunity for us as Stoneridge and our clients to enhance productivity, streamline processes. By understanding the features and the best practices for responsible use, we feel that you can maximize these benefits too. So please reach out to us if you'd like our help in getting started. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everyone for coming and welcome to Stoneridge Connect Community Conference.